Hey everybody, it's Christy with Artsy Bits by Kay, back with another video. Today we're going to review the Daler Rowney Aquafine watercolor paints. Alright, so since I've had a big variety of different watercolors that I have now kind of played with and tested and kind of understand the game a little bit, I thought that I would take some time and do a quick video talking about these Daler Rowney Aquafine watercolors that I received in a Scrawler box. I got the Scrawler box super late. I ordered it after the fact because I wanted to test these paints and it was a pretty good deal to do so. So I'm not really reviewing the Scrawler box because it was from April, but I do want to talk about these Daler Rowney paints because right now Scrawler box is running a special where your previous boxes are 10 pounds, which comes out to be, I wrote it down, $13.84 US. And so 6 watercolor tubes for $13.84 is a really good deal if they're worth it. So I wanted to play around and show you. So the first thing is I took the 6 tubes that we got, and the colors that we got were alizarin crimson hue, lemon yellow, ultramarine blue dark, hooker's green dark, raw sienna, and Chinese white. And I dried them down in the pans. They're not even completely dry yet because I did it yesterday, but they're drying really nicely. They dry very similar to the Cotman paints and how Cotman dries in a pan. This is just an extra little palette that I had lying around, so I just threw them in there, and you can see I was mixing in there. So I did test them on the Scrawler box paper. This is cellulose paper, so I did some other tests on other papers after I swatched them. But here's what the swatches looked like. So there's your top 6 swatches. They gave me a couple pencils too that I was playing with. So there's the swatches, and then this is secondary colors. So there's red and yellow, makes a really nice orange. The red and blue actually make a really beautiful purple. That's not always the case. Yellow and blue made kind of like a more sappy kind of green. And then here's 2 neutrals I was able to mix. And then when I added the white, it does give you a nice texture. I'm not a big fan of white watercolor paint, but I will say this one laid really nicely over top of the other paints, so you would be able to use it as a highlight. You might want to use it straight out of the tube as a highlight. I have yet to try it once it's been dried down. Here's the wet on wet blending, and I did try to lift up just a little square here, or there was a little bit of extra water down here, so I wanted to see if it would lift, and it lifted pretty well. Then here I went ahead, and this is like the 3rd neutral that I mixed, which was more like a green gray. And I went ahead, and you can see that I dotted the white in there, and it does end up drying on top kind of nicely. So Chinese white in general is not my favorite thing, but in this instance it did do an okay job with these paints. So overall, my first initial impressions are that they're pretty vibrant and that they were nice. They flowed really nicely. They swatched really nicely on the paper. Not crazy about this paper, but it is what I expected it to be. So I went ahead and did a few little tests on B watercolor paper because that is 100% cotton and it gives me a much better idea about how things work. So let me show you what I did here. I did just a little blend from the sky, and then I went ahead and I lifted out almost like a cloud-like texture just to see how it would lift, and it did pretty well. It definitely doesn't blend as nicely as, say, an artist grade paint. My Daniel Smiths, my Etsy artist grade watercolors, my M. Grahams all blend much nicer. But they did a really good job. They were very similar to my Cotman paints. So anything that would be in that student grade line, they are student grade paints, so this is perfectly in line with that. And then these were just like I did some wet on wet flowers here. And yeah, I just was doing a little bit of play testing, but they worked really nicely on this paper, similar to how Cotman would work. The third thing that I tested was here in my sketchbook, my Etcher Lab sketchbook, which if you guys haven't worked with Etcher yet, they're my favorite sketchbooks. So this is a wet on wet background, and I haven't even pulled the tape off yet because I still haven't gone back in with a black, which I'm sad that I don't have a black one of these paints to test. I'd rather a black than a white, but that's what I could get. And this right here, again, it was pretty good. It granulated a little bit in places, and like I said, you can tell the blend isn't like here. is Daniel Smith. Like this is a Daniel Smith blend, and you can just see the difference. So here you can see how seamlessly it blends, and I didn't do anything differently between this one and this one, but you can just see the blend is not as great. But again, I still think they're really good paints. I think they're really solid, and if you're looking for like a nice set of paints to start with a nice set of colors for cheap, this is a great deal. Oh, let me pull it back out here. Right now, you can, for Scrawlrbox, get this watercolor pad. You get a brush with this month. You get 2 pencils that kind of are whatever. I don't like the pencils, but all of that for $13.84 US. And if you are already a Scrawlrbox person and you have Scrawler points, you might be able to use Scrawler points to get it cheaper. So definitely worth it. If you just want to test Daler Rowney paints and you don't have Scrawlrbox or Scrawler points or a relationship there, on Amazon they have the half pan sets, which are already dried down like this, and there was a set of 12 for like $12 with a brush. So that's a really good deal. And if you don't want to buy Cotman paints, or Cotman paints aren't available where you are, or you're just wanting to try something else, I really think these Aquafines are pretty comparable to Cotman. So I just wanted to kind of throw out there what I tested with them and how I'm thinking about them. I will definitely use them. They'll be great to go into a travel palette, and I would use them right alongside my Cotman paints with no problem. So I hope that this was helpful to you. And if you are a Scrawlrbox person, I would snag that right up because it's a good deal, and you definitely can have a lot of fun with these paints if you didn't get the box. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a great day. Bye.